Somewhere right now, a young couple is counting on an inheritance that will never come. Maybe they just had their first child. Maybe they are looking at homes, assuming someday. A transfer will arrive. They are not alone. Over 47 million American families believe a generational windfall is coming. But what they do not realize is this. The greatest wealth transfer in U.S. history is already happening, and they are not part of it. Because this is not a distribution, it is a consolidation. And it is unfolding in near silence. Wealth does not just move. It follows a pattern repeated throughout history. From empires to economies, from kingdoms to democracies. A pattern so chillingly consistent that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It unfolds in 4 stages. Stage 1. The foundation. A currency is created and backed by something real: gold, silver, land. Something no government can tamper with. Trust grows. Prosperity spreads. This becomes the illusion of permanence. Stage 2. Expansion and debasement. The system stretches. War, welfare, entitlements, infrastructure, the cost grows. To pay for it, leaders dilute the backing. The currency drifts from value. The accounts no longer match the promises. Stage 3. Collapse of the middle. Inflation surges. Purchasing power erodes. The middle class, the savers, pensioners, salary earners are crushed. They hold the wrong thing at the wrong time. Meanwhile, the smaller class, those closest to government, to assets, to central banking, consolidate. They hold land, equities, hard goods. Stage 4. The reset. The system crumbles, and a new one replaces it. Currency reboots. The illusion resets, but the transfer is complete. Millions lose everything. A few hold everything. We call it collapse. History calls it rebalancing. This pattern is not philosophy. It is not theory. It is math. And you can trace it through every major collapse of the last 2,000 years, including the one that is unfolding right now. The first time this pattern played out, the world called it the Fall of Rome in 64 AD. Emperor Nero faced financial collapse. To survive, he began debasing Rome's silver currency, the denarius. Under Augustus, it had been 95% pure silver. Nero took it to 80%. Then his successors pushed for thirto 50%, then 20%, and eventually 2%. Trust vanished. Prices soared. A farmer's yearly grain no longer bought anything. The middle class holding currency suffered total loss. Meanwhile, Rome's elite landowners and merchants moved wealth into property and hard goods. Sound familiar? Stage 1. Foundation, silver standard. Stage 2. Debasement. Stage 3. Collapse of purchasing power. Stage 4. Reset and consolidation. Fast forward, Weimar, Germany, 1921. Still recovering from WWI. Germany owed over $500 billion in reparations, payable in gold, but they had no gold. So, they printed paper in January 1923. $1 equaled 17,000 marks. By November, it was 4.2 trillion. Life savings vanished in months. Bread that cost 160 marks in 1922 cost 200 billion marks by the end of 1923. Now, connect the pattern again. Backed currency gives excessive printing, gives inflation wipeout, gives new currency the Rentenmark. The wealth of the German middle class was erased. The elites, asset-heavy and politically connected, survived and thrived. Now to modern America. In 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window, ending the dollar's convertibility into gold. Overnight, the dollar became pure fiat. In the decades that followed, debt and money creation multiplied. The result? A widening wealth gap. Purchasing power fell. The price of homes, food, education, and healthcare soared. Wages did not. History did not glitch. It repeated precisely. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We are not at the beginning of the pattern anymore. We're nearing the end. If you're waiting for a great reset, stop. You are already living through it as of 2024. The United States has accumulated over $36 trillion in debt. The currency is no longer backed by anything except confidence, and that confidence is quietly thinning. Inflation, though no longer front-page news, is still eating away at the real value of wages and savings. Housing has become unaffordable for half the country. The cost of living has outpaced earnings for 2 decades. Wealth is not transferring. It is concentrating. The top 1% of Americans now hold over 30% of all household wealth. That's $49 trillion more than the GDP of most countries on Earth. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% hold just 2.8% of the nation's wealth. That includes everyone living paycheck to paycheck, everyone drowning in student loans, and everyone planning for a retirement inheritance that statistically will never come. Surveys show that nearly half of young Americans expect to inherit wealth from their parents, but only about a quarter of older Americans say they plan to leave anything. The numbers do not add up. The dream is not real. This is not the middle of the transfer. This is the end of it. The $124 trillion handoff is not going to the average family. It is being circulated within the elite, and that is how these cycles always end. Not with fire, not with revolution, but with quiet resignation. The middle class loses its grip. The wealthy consolidate further. And the rest of the country is left wondering what happened. Too late to adjust. The system is not going to warn you. There will be no press release announcing the final stage of the pattern. By the time the headlines admit what has happened, the opportunity to prepare will be gone. So, what do? First, stop relying on inheritance. The data is clear. Wealth is not trickling down. It is rising upward, quietly and relentlessly. Second, understand where your money is. If your savings are in cash, savings accounts, or fixed income instruments, they are being devalued every time the Federal Reserve expands the money supply. The purchasing power you lose is absorbed by those who own assets, land, equities, businesses, intellectual property, and commodities. This is not speculation. It is math. Currency loses value. Assets tied to hard value retain it or grow. That is why the wealthy hold less than 10% of their net worth in cash. And it is why you should not wait for wealth to arrive. You must build it yourself, on your terms, with assets that exist outside of systemic promises. Because the next time the economy resets, the question will not be, did you see it coming? It will be, did you act in time? This story is not new. It is played out in Rome, in Weimar. In 1970s America, now it is happening again, just slower, quieter, and more disguised. The pattern has never broken. It simply adapts to the times. What begins as currency expansion ends in wealth consolidation. What starts as good policy ends in economic gravity. And while most people look to inherit wealth, a very small group is designing the system to inherit them. The machine is still running, and most never notice the gears until it is too late to step aside. You are not watching wealth being passed down. You are watching it being redirected, and the question that matters most is not, will I inherit something? But rather, am I part of the inheritance or the exit plan?